I think we got pretty used to hearing the sound of our own voice via the microphones slash whatnot. Because supposedly people say once you start, it's going to be weird hearing the sound of your own voice coming through you while you talk at the same time. Because it's supposedly it's not the voice you hear in your head. It's actually the voice everyone else hears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, the first time I heard it, I'm like, no, it's not that high pitched. What? No.
I mean, I always kind of found my voice to be, at least what I found to be, sort of slightly annoying. But
Well, I think everyone does
to an extent, I'm sure.
And that's part of the process of getting over it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept yourself.
Yeah.
It is a weird thing though to hear your own voice.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely strange. But
just wait till you have to start editing yourself. Then you're like, shut up, me.
And then you're like, do I ever stop talking?
Oh my gosh, Frank, let other people talk. Let me tell you. You learn you also learn like real quick, like, oh, you look at that gut on you, Frank. Jeez, you gotta look some white, man.
I don't need a camera for me to feel that way about myself. I just have to like go in the bathroom and look in the mirror.
There's a shot in season 1 of Behind the Scenes where I'm just like sitting down and my gut's just like and I'm like, oh no, why did I let that?
Why did this happen?
That's so unflattering.
Hey, well,
Yeah, but because we only had time to shoot individual.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll have more time. We will shoot things better.
Yes, we will.
After I write the script, hopefully this summer. Hi guys, welcome.
Hey everybody, welcome.
You can introduce yourself.
I am Tyler Spence.
I'm Frank Joseph Hall. This is the Blue Eclipse podcast.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about some D&D stuff.
I'm really upset.
Why is that?
So what's nice is, the bad thing is that other channels are also called Blue Eclipse Studios, or just Blue Eclipse in general. So it makes it hard to like search for us. Like I literally had a guy like, which one are you?
Yeah.
The good news is I think we're doing better than most of them.
That's good. That's a good.
So we're like the top search result right now.
That's good to know.
So, I mean, it sucks that we're not the only one, but at the same time, at least we're doing solid. So, yeah. Hopefully better than solid.
Hopefully better than solid, but
Yeah. So Tyler.
So Frank.
You have a topic for us?
Yeah.
What?
So favorite and least favorite classes in D&D
in college.
Edition.
So my favorite class in college was probably oh man, there's so many good ones.
As exciting as college is, I
was a TA one time. It was actually really fun. For 5th edition is probably what we're going to talk about. So
yes, yeah,
we have played 4th edition for like
which to be
4 sessions.
Yeah, to be fair, I quite enjoyed.
I also enjoyed it. I
it's
understand
got some interesting elements that I think we even carry now as sort of homebrew to 5th edition. Especially
I liked the idea that you had like at will and daily powers, and they pretty much just like renamed them, and it's the same thing in 5th edition.
Yeah, and the thing
short and long rest.
And honestly, my favorite thing from 4th edition was actually the bloodied effect, like the fact that was an indicator for your players, and
which would make sense because if you're physically fighting like a bear, you would know like, oh, it's bleeding out really badly.
Yeah,
I wonder how much more it can take,
or a person that you're going against, or something like that. But not only that, but the fact that especially for me, because I like writing characters, like my strong suit, for those of like my strong suit when it comes to running my games in D&D is my NPCs. I don't really do monsters.
That is non-playable characters for those of you.
Yeah, for those of you uninitiated. So the other people that my players meet in their games are the things that I tend to do best.
So just for a quick, just in case you don't know what D&D is, basically it's
Dungeons
improv acting.
Yeah,
it's improv acting.
Yeah, for those of you
with dice.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what D&D is, which
I'm sorry.
I apologize. It's
so fun.
I genuinely believe it to be one of the best hobbies a person can have. Just as a creative outlet and everything else. It's really enjoyable.
But the basic idea is it's fantasy based usually.
There's other systems and things like that, but
usually fantasy based. There's one person who's running the story. They are the DM or dungeon master. They will tell the story, and then you have the players who create their own characters, various races, such as, the traditional elves, dwarves, humans, some weirder ones like lizard folk, tabaxi, which are cat people.
Bird people, Aarakocra.
The best character in our party.
He's pretty good.
And then you get a race and you get a class, which is like fighter, monk, all that stuff.
Yeah, so the base classes in the player's handbook,
and then you just play story.
Yeah, for 5th edition, I believe goes as follows. It's
Bard,
barbarian,
cleric, druid, fighter. We're gonna try to go in alphabetical order.
Yeah,
monk, paladin,
paladin. Yeah, paladin,
rogue, and ranger.
Ranger, then rogue, and then
sorcerer, wizard,
warlock. Yeah.
Again, it's not in alphabetical order.
Not perfect alphabetical, but yeah, those are your base classes, and you design a character. Obviously, the thing that I enjoy about D&D is
and you roll dice to determine what happens.
Yeah, basically,
it's great because you're forced to have to like do things you don't want to. It's like, no, I want to succeed. Too bad, that's not what happened.
Yeah, the thing is that it. There's the other great thing about D&D is that there's a lot of ways to play D&D. Everyone sort of has their different way of, enjoying the game. Some people like to go more for the
kill everything.
Yeah, more of the actual mechanics of the game and focusing on killing monsters and things like that. Other people, myself in this department, I enjoy the role playing as characters and sort of getting into character.
Think of it as acting, but you make up the script as you go.
Exactly. It would be basically 100% improv.
Lord of the Rings, but if you wrote your own original character into
it's like, here's a fantasy world. Here's your character. And
what do you do?
And the DM is basically like, all right, here's things that are happening. What do you do? What are you? How are you reacting?
That's the hardest part for most people. It's like, wait, what? It's like, no, what do you do? I don't know. Like it usually, the moment someone gets it, they fall in love.
Yeah, and because the thing is that it's that idea that I think it's what it is it's the ultimate form of what a lot of people look for in video games. The ability to go anywhere and do anything.
Like video games try to emulate that, but ultimately they're restricted.
They're in a space of
they're restricted by whatever the designer
the limitations of the game itself. Whereas
D&D, hey, we want to go to this island that looks like an island. Well, that was a coffee stain. I guess it's an island now.
Yeah, basically that's it. That's the heart of it. And it's a connection between the dungeon master and the players and sort of this social contract that you develop and what you work on. You basically build a story together.
It's real fun.
Super fun.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about
classes.
So the meat
of
the game.
So we'll start with favorite class, because I think that'll be a better starting talking point, and then we'll go to what is most likely least favorite class.
I don't think I have a favorite because I like them all.
I enjoy them all too, but I know I have a very clear specific class.
Monk?
Yes, 100%.
Monks are so.
Monks are
Why'd
great.
You tell him about that stunning strike?
Well,
I used to have villains that did things, and then he just keeps striking them, and now they don't do anything.
Just roll better.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah. There is a screen that protects you from seeing my rolls.
But I enjoy monks quite a bit because one of my favorite characters that I've designed sort of had that, like, with the mechanics of the monk class. It literally the whole design of my favorite character that I've made in D&D was literally just to go fast.
Well, what's funny is,
and that sounds dumb, but like that translated
and she's blue, so she's
and she was blue.
Sonic.
She's literally Sonic. Yeah. So, that sounds dumb, but like when I was playing in the game that this character made it the furthest, and when the base move speed of a character is 30 feet, and my character, she could go 90 feet in a turn.
In 6 seconds.
In 6 seconds of time. That is one round or one, turn, basically, when you're in combat and stuff.
That's insane.
She was insanely fast. And that's not even including if she did things like dash, or things like that, or clicked her boots of speed that she wore. But I used that movement to my advantage because what I enjoyed was being able to move anywhere in the fight at any time. And the subclass that I picked for it, which was Sun Soul, helped sort of design that character for her, because what ended up happening is she basically became
run away, throw light at you.
You know, and the way that I tied it is I'd worked with my DM to basically sort of modify the class in a way where eventually the bolts of light that I was casting out, which are a normal feature of the subclass, I could change to tune to an element.
That's cool.
And so it was like becoming Sonic the Avatar.
Sonic the Super Saiyan.
Sonic the Super Saiyan, basically. But yeah, Monk's really enjoyable because there's just some things like the only thing I'm disappointed in Monk is the Keystone ability, which for those who don't know, Keystone is the 20th level, which is the max level in
Capstone, you mean?
Capstone.
I've heard
Keystone.
Capstone,
I've heard
fine.
Both. It's the 20th level ability, which is the max level.
You level up.
You level up in D&D, but that's the max level ability for that class. Every class has like a capstone or keystone, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the ones
some of them are like super insane.
The one for Monk is really disappointing, but
you get key points at the start of a turn if you don't have any key points.
Yeah, it's like, so monks get a total of 20 key points by the time they're 20th level.
Yep. Equal to their level, yeah.
And so the keystone for it is that if you start a combat with 0 key points, you get back 4.
That's nothing.
4. That's nothing.
And you'll waste them all immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, but everything else about the class, like what my actual favorite feature of the class, which I never really got to utilize because my character never got to this level before that campaign ended, was, I believe it's something along the lines of Tongue of the Sun, and I can't remember what exactly it is, but essentially the character can literally understand and speak to all living creatures. Like everyone.
It's like they channel the chi kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's like they channel the chi, and I think it's like 14th or 13th level when they learn this.
Yeah, so fun fact with D&D, you never really get past like 11th level.
Yeah, not usually.
It's sad.
But, you know, the idea that, you know, or at least what I had planned for my character in the sense that she would be able to sort of communicate with anyone.
Well, even before that, technically your character was in my campaign.
Yeah.
And was not a monk.
No, originally they were a
gunslinger, which is a subclass for the fighter.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, this is my character, this is what I'm going to do, and then that nat 20 religion roll happened.
Yep. And that's the other great thing about D&D is if you're in a group and you're with a DM, or you are the DM and you're with a player, and something like defining for a character can happen.
First 3 sessions in.
Yeah.
And like, all of a sudden, this thing, I'm like, it could be a thing. Oh, nope. Religion is now a strong part of this character.
Yep. And so
then we were talking like, okay, well, you could take, if you wanted to, you could take like cleric or paladin. That doesn't really fit who you are. And then monk just came up and we're like, And then so took a level in monk.
Took a level in monk.
And like it made sense in the context of
the character and the story going on.
And then slowly was like, but could I just be a monk?
Yeah, I'm like, you know, and at one point I even like got rid of my gun, which, you know, I was like, cool, I'm going to do this because I'm going to fully dedicate myself towards
I told you in hindsight I should have done something. And
I know. No, I'm not even really salty about it anymore.
Yeah. I was
quite salty because essentially my character buried their only real form of attack that wasn't their fists, and I was like, well, you know, I was kind of expecting because of what felt like a strong character moment. Usually in most games, if you know, sort of done correctly, usually there's some kind of benefit or something like that. And I remember specifically asking Frank, so do I get anything for burying my gun? And I believe his exact response was, well, now you don't have a form of ranged attack. And
which ironically you ended up getting a form of ranged attack, so it doesn't matter.
Well, also to be fair, it was only one session where I actually got to be all 6 levels in monk.
Yeah. No, there was a
it was one. It was
there
like
was one where you
got
to combat all 6 levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, to be fair, that TPK total party kill was not entirely my fault.
Oh no, it was actually, I fully agree that it was probably my fault.
I'm willing to die. All right, if they're willing to die, I'm willing to die.
And that just split the whole party. So essentially one of the characters in the campaign got imprisoned. My character, this being one of the only friends she had ever made, she was like, well,
I guess I'm killing everybody.
Yeah, she was like, well, no. Because she didn't know any better.
Before it was like, okay, he goes to prison, we'll just bust him out. And then very complicated story later involving a lot of politics. That character ends up killing his father in the courtroom, who happened to be a really high, powerful person. So then the guards are like, cool, we're going to kill this guy because he just killed our president, basically. And then you're like, well, no, I'm going to kill everybody.
Which did not end well.
That escalated horribly.
But to get back on topic, so you said you don't have a favorite class because you enjoy them all.
I think the mechanics fit in really well. I understand complaints of certain classes. I think the Ranger, everyone was complaining about it, but with the new subclasses in Xanathars, there's no problems with the Ranger at all.
Gloomstalkers, fantastic.
Monster Slayer's my favorite personally out of those.
I'm enjoying Gloomstalker because I don't know. I like the theme of it. I've always been more focused on
in the shadows,
the ideas of the subclasses and classes than I have the mechanics.
Yeah, so like I think everything fits well. I think if I was forced to pick, I would go with the fighter because it's the most generic.
Yeah.
Now hear me out on this.
No, every time you say that, the first thing I think of is, well, why don't you just take a 3-level dip in fighter?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. So there's a common joke that because you can
multi-class
levels in other classes.
You can so out of
and so
20,
everyone's like, well, you should take like 2 levels in fighter because then you get action surge, which lets you do another action,
which is extremely
and
useful
that's good for
all
every
classes.
Yeah, because you can cast another spell
Don't
like this or
learn
that.
anything like that.
And then I always made the joke, well, if you take a 3-level dip, then you can get the champion fighter, which is crits on a 19. And look at that, all of a sudden
you're even better.
Well, then how many levels should you take?
Is that all crits or is it only on melee? Do you know off the top of your head?
I would have to look up the exact wording on it. I think it's only melee, but I mean, if you have a nice dungeon master, you could
work it out.
I mean, the warlock, the Hexblade warlock, it says when you use your warlock's curse, all 19s are crits.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't have to be with your whatever your weapon is. It can be like Eldritch Blast or anything else.
Yeah, it's worded specifically like that.
But that's also only directed towards one target.
Yeah.
During whenever the thing is active. So I go with the fighter because it's generic, and I think that forces you to have to come up with a more interesting character. So like with like the monk, it's super like, okay, you're going down this road of like, okay, so you're either at a monastery or some religious institute or something along those lines. You were trained by another monk. You can go super old school, Bruce Lee with it.
The classes, all classes have the ability to be very diversified. You can some classes definitely have more of a theme than other ones do.
Like you can always go against tropes, but the problem is there's still a trope to go with.
Yeah. Like you said, fighters is just literally anyone with the ability with a weapon.
Yeah, and so
whereas for example,
me, what's interesting about the fighter is that forces the player to have to then come up with something interesting about the character rather than just the class itself.
Yeah,
and then there's no longer this like idea of what a fighter has to be. Are they like good with every weapon? Is it like you can go generic? I'm a battle master and I like do this stuff and I'm really
but
good
that
at
works
it.
for some people.
But like the subclass really informs who you are. So the battle master is a strategist. They are the person who's like, I know formations, I do these things. The champion is just really, really lucky.
Yeah.
And like Darius, I think, is doing a good job of that. Like Darius is playing a champion fighter, which is the most generic class combination possible. And I did that on purpose because he was late to the session. I rolled his character. I'm like, sorry, this is what you're getting.
And he's done pretty well with it.
He's like, cool. Well, this is my backstory. I come from a clan of mage slayers that got kidnapped, or like the village got burned down.
He jumped really,
and I was
on board with it very quickly.
Yeah, because then he started being like, oh, I'm mage slayers. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then right now they're in the Shadowfell saving his family, so that's fun.
Yeah, always reminds me of Dragon Age Origins and the Templars. Very interesting.
I forgot. I think he took it from another video game that I can't remember.
I think it was the MMO that he plays that I am blanked.
If only he was here. Darn.
I'm blanking on the name of
it. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah.
So yeah, I think like that alone is like, well, cool. You have to justify your class a little bit more. You could be an Eldritch Knight, so it's like, okay, you're smart because obviously you can cast these spells, but why are you being able to cast these spells? Mm-hmm. You can go with like the gunslinger, so that means you're more of a tinkerer kind of a thing, and like it informs your character a little bit more in that regard.
Yeah, and the it's the same for subclasses for a lot of the characters. Like a lot of the monk subclasses definitely diverge off of what you would normally think the trope
Way
is.
of the open hand, generic.
It's super like
Jackie Chan fight. No, Drunken Master is Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
that's one. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Drunken Master is pretty good, but
yeah. So yeah, there's that stuff. But ultimately, I think every class is great. I think you need to understand the class before you play it. I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of transitioning into what we least like about the classes. I think that's the biggest issue, is that people don't know what they're getting into with the class. And so that's what they don't like. Like they look at it as what they want it to be rather than what it is, kind of a thing.
Like a certain.
They're like, oh, I want the ranger to be able to do this, but then it doesn't, because that's not what the ranger does. And it's like, what? Then this is a bad class. It's like, no.
And I think for some people, you know, there's definitely, with sort of any game that has classes and things like that, and just the way the mechanics are set up, some classes are definitely mechanically more difficult than others. Anything involving spell casting, I would say, for a new player can be difficult because
it's just
to
a lot
grasp.
to remember.
Exactly.
I think, well, I mean, like,
especially because like for in your game.
So Evan plays a sorcerer, which I argue is actually the best spellcasting class you can play, because it's you pick your spells once. Sure, you can trade them every so often, but you're forced and locked into them.
If you're a newer player, it's definitely one of the magic classes I would recommend. Yeah,
and like he has a bunch of other mechanics he can do, including the subclass that I custom made that he's using. He can do a bunch of other stuff outside of that, but he's choosing not to because he just wants to cast spells, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
you find that in D&D, you get to a point where you have so many mechanics that you just have the ones you use, and what's cool about that is then it makes you want to play the class again using the other mechanics.
Yeah.
Or so you can have literally
on it.
two paladins who are acting completely different mechanically from each other, and that's interesting. Like, so you could have the guy who just smites a lot, and the guy who uses his spells, uses his oaths,
like a certain paladin in our group who does a lot of smiting, and that's about it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I have spells. I'm like, yeah, but let's be honest, you're just gonna smite it anyway. And he's like, yeah, that's true.
He's like, yeah, why bother, right?
I'm like, what's the point of it? So yes, there are classes that are like, for example, another person in our group, Hannah, she is playing a druid, and she loves the druid. The problem can come that she has so many options for a combat that it takes her a little too long to.
So the thing is, for context,
I apologize for the garbage truck.
Yeah. So for the thing for context is there are a couple of classes in D&D with the way the spellcasting works. There are some classes who, like he said, like for sorcerer, for example, you just pick your spells. Yeah.
Ranger.
You get your spells as you level up. You get to pick new ones, switch out one or two.
Then you have like
clerics, druids,
and technically wizards.
They literally pick their spells from an entire spell list every morning in the game after every long rest. It's so like the first time it's like, oh, it's only a handful of spells. Especially if you're starting at the lower level, it's really not that bad.
And then but once you get to like the later, like where they can cast 5th level spells, so like that's every spell, and then you only get you get only a specific amount. Yeah, for the druid, it's your level plus your wisdom modifier. Yeah. So like that's how many she can know per day.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's difficult.
There's times where you're like, shoot, I should have learned this spell instead of that spell.
You know, and especially with sometimes attendance being a thing, it's like, all right, what spells does our druid who's not here right now have prepared for today? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's one of those things where, because for me personally, you know,
of course you add in the fact that they can polymorph or be shape.
They can be shape as well, and there's a whole list of animals with each having their own individual stats and attacks and everything else. Yeah. I personally believe that druid, especially at later levels, is like one of the most complex classes to play because of just how much you have to know and be aware of to make the class effective. You know, like, you have to know what spells are going to be useful. You have to know which beast shapes. You know, you have to keep in mind all of your options anytime something comes up.
I'd argue Monk is up there too, just because of the amount of stuff you can do with key points.
Yeah, but the thing is
it's up there. It's not one of the.
I would almost say that the key points for Monk, depending on your class, are actually kind of not like limited, but like you don't really get to do that much. Like I know for my Monk, when we were like 11th or 12th level roughly, the main things I was using my key points for is the being able to dash on a bonus action.
Oh, really? Step of the Wind?
Yep, Step of the Wind. Patient Defense actually was one I used a lot because monks work sort of like dodge tanks. They don't really take hits, but they're hard to hit.
Yes, they have. Yeah.
And not only that, but also Stunning Strike.
Yeah.
And the other big one that I used was actually Burning Hands because Sun Soul get to cast it, and I believe you can always cast it at a base 2nd level for a cost of like 3 or 4 key points, and then you can bump it up a level for every 2 extra key points you spend, up to a certain level, 4th or 5th level.
So yeah, and then clerics are also up there because they have to learn all their spells, and then they get a bunch of additional stuff.
Yeah, and they also have a lot of features.
Yeah.
Like I said,
And they can vary so much.
I only find Druid to be the more complex out of all, just because beast shape alone is a very in-depth mechanic.
Yeah.
With how many different animals you get,
Which is
especially
why
if you go.
we've limited a little bit by just like, I have these cue cards that have the animals on them. These
Yeah.
are the ones you know.
Yeah, exactly. The ones
Just
that
to help
she's
all of
researched.
us.
Yeah.
And then occasionally it'll be like, well, I need a rat. It's like, okay, you have a rat. And
Yeah.
then we'll just make it up.
I think if I had to pick a least favorite or a class that I don't personally enjoy playing the most, which I've been playing D&D for a while, but I have not played every class. To be honest, I think the class I've enjoyed playing the least is actually Rogue.
Really?
Yeah, though to be fair, the Rogue class that I was playing is not your typical Rogue. I was actually an Arcane Trickster. So fun fact about me, I don't do magic very well with my characters.
Yeah, we learned that one.
Yeah, it's just not that I find the mechanics themselves difficult to grasp, but when you are playing classes, like I think if I played spellcasters, I think I almost would prefer the ones that get to choose their spells daily, because I feel like when I pick certain spells for
You feel
things,
like you picked the wrong one?
not only do I feel like I picked the wrong one, but then I feel like it really limits my character. Whereas with a lot of the stuff that you do with the more physical characters, you're limited only by that physical limitation, not what you can think of. Whereas with spells, it's very defined what you can cast and what you can do with those spells. Now, obviously, some things can change slightly depending on your DM. If you are trying to modify a spell in some slight way, it's like, hey, make a couple rolls, see if you can do it. But for the most part, I've actually, Ranger's becoming close to like my second favorite class, in maybe even enough time my favorite class. I'm really enjoying,
because it's good at what it does.
Exactly.
It's not a you can do anything. It's a you are good at what you do.
Yeah, the whole point of this Ranger that I have right now is that at the moment she basically never misses, and that's just like useful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like just the fact that it's, in a way, depending on, whatever creature we're fighting or something like that, it's a consistent source of damage, which is nice. But I also just enjoy, like, for me, a lot of the things I enjoy about the classes themselves are the subclasses and the themes behind those subclasses. So Monk being my favorite, Sun Soul Monk is my favorite because the idea behind Sun Soul Monk is that you are trying to train yourself, or at least sort of the idea that I ended up coming with it overall is that you're attempting to constantly physically train yourself to the point of peak physical perfection. Yep. Essentially, because
then you eventually literally live forever.
Yeah, you literally. It's
like 10 times your normal lifespan.
Yeah, it's like 10 times. I think that's like the 18th level, I want to say, or like something somewhere like up that, there. Yeah. It's like you literally age like every 10 years is only a year for you.
Yeah.
So you live like a much longer time than you normally would. And the thing I'm really enjoying about this Gloomstalker Ranger is that these are people that are going out of their way to head into basically what are the usually darkest areas of, and I mean that like both literally and figuratively, like the darkest areas of whatever place that they live in, to attempt to root out, whatever evil might be there. So sort of that my character having that purpose, I think, is super important, which is why I enjoyed like my monk as much as I did, is she had a very clear purpose. And the range that I have right now, especially with some recent stuff that's happened in the campaign, again, has now a very clear purpose.
You're welcome.
Thanks, man.
Man, darn, I'm sad that this villain I wanted to kill is dead.
Like literally
5 sessions.
Yeah, it was like literally, it was like what it was. I brought in my character.
I want to kill this character.
And my character didn't know that this villain that we were fighting had already been defeated by the party, or that she didn't know that he, what the party thought was dead. So I'm just sitting here like, well, there goes my vengeance story.
Well, but what's funny is I was leaving clues the entire time. Like, you guys went to the Feywild and saw this cheap Avatar: The Last Airbender stage production thing
Oh,
Remember?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I was there for that session.
Yeah,
But
so
I remember
you
hearing
weren't.
about it.
But yeah, like it was like, and then you guys are now in this weird shadowy place, and oh look, this skeleton guy's back, and they're like, wait, what?
What?
And then they just forgot about it, or the fact where it's like, it's talking here about how he's going to be reborn.
Yeah.
I think we're fine.
Yeah.
It's like we're leading the breadcrumbs, and it's like, really, none of you are. All right.
Yeah.
Like every so often, someone would be like, is he still alive? I think he might be. We don't know. And then just give up on it, and then
Yeah, and
by the way, you might be wondering, Frank, why aren't you talking about your characters? I don't get the luxury of playing as a character too often, and for whatever reason, the few times I have, they have not lasted more than a few sessions.
this, currently the campaign that I'm running, we're hoping is going to be for quite some time.
But considering we started January, maybe sooner.
I think sooner than that.
I don't. It was relatively early in the year.
Yeah, relatively earlier in the year.
And it is now May, and we are just now going to our 4th session.
Yeah, I plan on being more consistent, getting more players, but to sort of.
Yeah, so Frank usually is the guy telling the story, not the
usually
guy playing. DMing. Which I actually do not mind. I enjoy it. So like that's also my in a sense I can play every class.
Yeah, right.
But I don't get to play one class consistently.
Yeah, I think
and if I had to choose a worse class, I think maybe Warlock, just because its problem lies in the fact that it tries to be too much of everything. Like it's too you could be the spellcasting. You could be the spellcasting Warlock, but you're not as good at spellcasting as someone else. You could be the fighter Warlock, but you're not as good at fight. I mean, until the Hexblade came out, you weren't as good as fighting. And then you can be the whatever the third one is. See, that's the problem. I think you get like a little beastie thing.
I think
a familiar.
I think the enjoyment of Warlock for most people comes from the idea of the class, not so much the mechanics.
No, the idea is
like a lot of people really fixate on
making
Warlocks,
a pact with this,
making a pact with either an ancient demon or a god or something. You don't know. You don't know what exactly it is.
I think from a roleplay perspective, I like that, and because they introduced the Hexblade and even the Celestial a little bit, it gives you people like, oh, I could actually play this class, versus.
I enjoyed my time with my mix of Bard / Celestial Warlock. I had a really good time. But see, that's my problem. Is
Bard does a better job of being everything and still being good.
But I'd also argue that Bard is way more. Well, at least the subclass I went is way more spellcasting based.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying though. It's better at that because it's still a full caster. You still get to cast a lot,
and you still eventually get 9th level spells. Where I think the highest Warlock ever gets is 5th level.
Yeah, it's a half caster. Yeah. It's not worth it in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a half caster a paladin but like a ranger or paladin technically are. But they don't even
Well, and that was my thing about not enjoying rogue arcane trickster specifically, because that's really the only rogue that I've played.
Oh, you played Krayark.
Oh yeah, I did for a while, and I enjoyed her.
Yeah, she was inquisitive.
Yeah, and that was actually a really interesting subclass, and I'd love to revisit that idea sometime. But at least Arcane Trickster Rogue has been my least favorite class that I've played. Not because of
Bards are great, by the way.
The idea of the class, a rogue who uses a little bit of magic to help enhance their abilities.
Get that mage hand to lockpick so you don't have to get in trouble if it goes bad.
Yeah, exactly. I just it just didn't fit with my playstyle. Yeah. I found that I very much like hitting things with swords, and
if you're going to hit it more than once.
I was like, I want to be able to strike multiple times.
That's why I told you the 15 rogue, 15 fighter is a good
15 rogue, 5 fighter.
Yeah, 5 fighter.
Get that extra attack.
There you go. Yeah. The problem is it takes a while.
No, it takes, just casually be 20th level.
Yeah. But if you can do that, you're good.
Yeah.
But no, Bards are also really good.
Bards are good.
Bards are a really good class. You can be literally any kind of Bard you want. Yep. You want to be the just straight up support? You can. You want to be the spell casting? You can. You want to be the fighter? You can.
Yeah.
Oh, Barbarians are also really good. See, this is the part where Frank just says all of them are great.
They're all really good. Yeah.
I mean, I would say the Barbarians are the only class that no matter what subclass, it's basically the same thing. You can take a lot of damage and deal a lot of damage. But what's nice is you
some
can
of them focus more on taking more damage.
And
Some of them focus on dealing more
yeah.
damage.
So that's how I basically described it to Jeff when he was picking his barbarian. I'm like, okay, do you want to be able to get hit a lot more and be fine with it,
Or do you want to hit things more often?
And he's like, "Ooh, I want to hit things more often." I'm like, "All right, then I know what to do."
Yeah.
And then there's like the other subclasses, which I think once someone actually starts playing them, it'd be interesting. Like the Zealot, the Storm Herald, and whatever the third one is.
In the game that
Ancestral Guardian.
In the game that I ran online, I did have a barbarian who is a barbarian of the Zealot, and I believe one of the abilities of the Zealot is that resurrecting them actually cost a lot less materials.
Oh, it costs 0.
Yeah,
which
was like super interesting for my game because they were always getting into fights. So the fact that this barbarian, like, even if he died, it was always just like,
cast the spell.
just go find someone to cast the spell, and he'll just come back and start beating up more things.
Yeah,
is interesting, and he enjoyed that character a lot at the time. But
yeah, at some point, like we've said multiple times, we want to stream our game. And I think because I think the dynamic of our group on Sunday is actually really good.
Very much so.
I
enjoy it quite a bit.
And considering most of them are newer players, it's nice to get the newness out of the way now. So that way, if we ever stream it, they're like at least knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would be nice.
It would be great.
Yeah.
And it will be great.
Once Tyler figures out how to set up stream.
Once we have a little more time and equipment and everything else.
But before that, we need your help getting us subscribers. So please subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, subscribe.
We don't really
comment.
Like I said, I don't like doing that stuff because I feel like if you're on YouTube, you know what the heck to do if you want to support somebody.
Yeah, everyone does.
Like
but
for whatever reason, you have to.
Yeah, but sometimes you're watching stuff and you just kind of zone out a little bit, especially with our podcast where it's like
our
we're talking.
voices.
Yeah, our soothing voice. Where we're talking for quite a bit of time. Sometimes you get to the end of it and it's just kind of like, oh, here's the autoplay for the next thing. But yeah, so if hopefully you enjoy.
Please tell your friends so we can make some money.
Tell your friends. Hopefully you enjoy our content.
Yeah, dude, we reached 1,000 minutes of watch time.
Wonderful.
Aren't you glad we reached 1,000 minutes when we need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours?
Yeah.
In order to start making money.
We're getting there.
I'll get there.
Slowly but surely.
Thanks, guys. If you're wondering about the new setup, make sure to watch our last week's podcast where we explain this is just the test run. We're going to see if it works or not. If it doesn't work, you have not seen this episode.
Yeah.
I doubt that's going to happen.
Doubt that's going to happen, but But anyways, yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you got some insight on D&D and everything else. And I'm Tyler Spence.
I'm Frank Joseph Hall. We will see you the next time you see us.
Yeah, whenever that is. Bye-bye.